Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Premier Injuries Roundup ahead of FPL Game Week 6. Now, before I get into it, if you like this type of content, please click the like button. And we do have a lot of watchers as well who are not subscribed, so please subscribe to the channel. The more subscribers we have, the more content that we can produce. Now, ahead of Game Week 6, fortunately, we don't have the same headaches that we had back in Game Week 4, where there were 120 plus players potentially at risk of missing out. Today, as it stands, we're in and around 89 to 90, so it should be an absolute breeze. So my name's Ben, and I'm going to try and cover all 20 teams in 10. Got me a little phone here. Let's give it a bash. Let's see what we can do. And we're off. Arsenal, do not adjust your sets. The Arsenal treatment room is currently empty. Granit Xhaka returns after a suspension, and he also tested positive while away with the Swiss squad for COVID-19. He's absolutely fine. The only other question marks were with regards to Kieran Tierney. He came off in Game Week 5 with suspected cramp. Fortunately, that proved to be the case. He was rested midweek. Mikel Arteta said he's absolutely fine. Thomas Partey is also being managed. He played 60 minutes. Replaced on the hour mark, but that's absolutely fine. It's not injury related. They're just managing his loan following his recent return from injury. Now, Aston Villa, unfortunately, it's not the same across at Villa Park. Dean Smith managing a number of issues. The biggest blow would be the loss of Leon Bailey. What an impact he made against Everton in Game Week 5. 2 goals from the bench, but was forced off after 21 minutes after complaining of discomfort in his thigh. Early suggestions implied that it could have actually been a rupture of the quadriceps muscle. I must admit, mechanism of injury, it didn't look like that. But it's not as good as it could have been. The player himself reported tightness, but it looks like it's going to be at least 2 to 3 weeks. So hopefully targeting a return in Game Week 9 after the international break. Villa also lost Morgan Sansom in the Carabao Cup. He had a hamstring problem. Not come as a huge surprise because he's coming off the back of a knee injury, but early reports suggest that could be in and around 3 to 4 weeks, possibly even a month. Axel Tuanzebe, he can't line up against his parent club due to the loan terms of his loan agreement. Better news, John McGinn forced off at Everton, took 2 whacks to the head. First one was fine. Second one, he said he felt a little bit dizziness. He was taken off as a precaution under the concussion protocol, but he's been cleared and he will be involved. Long-term absentees Kieran Davies and Trezeguet remain out. There are question marks with regards to Matty Targett. There has been no update from Villa whatsoever or Dean Smith. Now, he went off with an abductor problem against Everton. I suppose the one positive you could maybe take, he was complaining early in the game about a problem, and then he continued, I think, up until around about the 71st minute. So, you know, as long as that hasn't been exacerbated in any way, shape or form, he may be in with a good chance. Otherwise, we could see Ashley Young start at left back. At Brentford, other than long-term absentees, Mad Sorensen and Joshua Da Silva, Thomas Frank has had a full squad at his disposal. Shandon Baptiste served his suspension in the Cup, and Rico Henry, who picked up a minor ankle problem at Molineux, has been cleared and he's absolutely fine. Brighton, Adam Webster won't be back until after the international break. That's a hamstring injury. And Graham Potter is hopeful that East Basuma, knee, and also Alexi McAllister back can return to training on Saturday. Of course, the Seagulls don't play Palace until Monday, so that will give them a couple of days to prove their fitness. So fingers crossed with those two. There are doubts over new signing Enoch Mwepu. I hope I said that right. Complained of groin tightness in the build-up to the Carabao Cup game midweek, and he was removed from the starting 11 and put on the bench. It could be that he isn't risked in this game with, a really strong squad to choose from. Burnley, Josh Brownhill, not risked in the Carabao Cup. Dead leg, but did return to the training pitches out on the grass with the group on Thursday, so he should be fine. Also, Wayne Hennessy stands a good chance. He injured his ankle on the eve of that Carabao Cup game, actually practicing penalties. The news is not so good with regards to Connor Roberts. He had groin surgery in the summer, but he's also complaining of discomfort in his thigh, and that in itself is probably going to rule him out, maybe delay his return by a couple of weeks. Kevin Long, very close, but won't be considered. Dale Stephens out of the equation at the moment. Chelsea, big game against Manchester City in the early kickoff. The big news and the good news for Chelsea supporters is that Edouard Mendy is back and will start in goal. Thomas Tuchel has confirmed that keeper will step aside and Mendy will return in goal. Christian Pulisic hasn't progressed as hoped from an ankle problem, and he has missed out. And Mason Mount will also miss the game with what Tuchel described as a minor injury that he picked up in the cup. Now, that may be with one eye on the Champions League midweek, but he certainly won't be involved in that Premier League encounter. Crystal Palace, Jeffrey Sloop. He returned to the training pitches last weekend when Palace were actually playing, doing some individual work, and joined the group earlier in the week. So he's fine. He's had a hamstring problem. It just leaves Eze and Nathan Ferguson as long-term absentees, hopefully back before the end of the year, but no guarantees. For Everton, massive problems down there at Goodison Park. At Rafford, of course, they're coming off the back of 2 defeats, albeit one of those being a penalty shootout victory. Let's start with who's back first. Jordan Pickford looks to have recovered from a shoulder injury, so unfortunately, Asmir Begovic, he'll have to make way. And there's also Lucas Digne, who came off with a tight calf. He's been cleared to return as well. So that's good news. The bad news, Richarlison's still out. Dominic Calvert-Lewin still out. So that means that Salomon Rondon will leave that Everton line. Now, he's done a good job, but unfortunately, he's been without competitive football for 4 months. So he's just getting, he's still building that sharpness and that match fitness. That's why maybe he's just looking a little bit off the pace at the moment, but a great player. Witnessed it myself on Tyneside. Fabian Delph, Jean-Philippe Gabberman, Andre Gomez, they're all out as well. Leeds United, we provided an update yesterday. If you haven't seen it, check it out on Patrick Bamford. He has been ruled out due to the ankle injury that he sustained at St James's Park 7 days ago on the Friday night. Doesn't look to be too serious. I would be fairly confident that he could return in game week 7. Pascal Struijk suspended. Diego Llorente is also out. We've got question marks over Luke Ayling. Knowing the player and knowing and looking at the mechanism of injury, that is a big concern for me. He is one that could miss out, although Bielsa would not give a definitive answer. Likewise with Rafinha, however, I'm a little bit more confident with him. Jack Harrison has also been cleared following his positive test for COVID, but Bielsa said just because he's been cleared, it doesn't mean that he'd be involved. I think he probably will in one way, shape or form. Robin Koch still out long term. At Leicester, treatment room's looking pretty healthy. Long-term absentees, James Justin, probably 4 to 6 weeks away from a potential return. Wesley Fofana, we're looking at 2022. Johnny Evans, 90 minutes midweek. He will be managed. I suggest it's probably a place on the bench for him with Vestergaard and Soyuncu starting. Liverpool, Thiago, calf problem. Highly unlikely that he will return before the international break, so he's going to miss 3 games at least. Naby Keita stubbed the ground, kicked the turf midweek. Very painful. Definitely out of this game. It's a day-by-day assessment. We'll see for the Champions League or game week 7. Roberto Firmino, training. Whether he's going to be involved, again, it's going to be a late call. I suggest anything would come from the bench. If Klopp decides against it, he will return 100% in the Champions League. Nico Williams, training, but again, hasn't had a lot of football this season, and that sharpness and that fitness is the worry. On a more positive note, Trent, fully fit, training, no problem. James Milner is also fit and available. Harvey Elliott, obviously long-term, but it looks like he could return this season. For Manchester City, Pep, again, wasn't given much away, never really does, but we have question marks over John Stones, Aymeric Laporte, Rodri, Ilkay Gundogan, and also Zinchenko. Some of those players have returned to the training pitches to take part in light sessions. He wouldn't name individuals, so it could be that we may have 1 or 2 of those back. I suggest that maybe John Stones is a little bit short in terms of his fitness. Laporte, I was maybe expecting game week 7. Rodri could be the one and Gundogan could be the one. That would be big news. I would be very surprised if it wasn't Ruben Diaz and Nathan Ake paired separately, although I understand Ake was given compassionate leave through the week following the passing of his father recently. Manchester United, the only two confirmed absentees, Marcus Rashford and Adam Diallo. That's following the news that Edison Cavani returned to training this week. So again, the likelihood he could be named on the bench in that match day squad. Oh, nearly there. For Newcastle, double injury blow. Joe Willock, toe injury in training, may be back next week. Jamal Lascelles, thigh injury against Leeds. That will keep him out until after the international break. He joins the likes of John Joe Selvey and Callum Wilson, who are going to be out, and Paul Dummett for the foreseeable future. Also question marks with regards to Freddie Woodman, who was omitted from the squad last weekend. Martin Dubravka has been on the training pitches, but is still 2 to 3 weeks away following surgery on his foot and then a setback when that got infected. At Norwich, a couple of the usual suspects remain in the treatment room. Planchetta, suffering from long COVID, may return to the training pitches from next week, but Christoph Zimmermann is still being hampered by an ongoing ankle problem, and Milo Rashica had an adductor issue in the Carabao Cup, so there's question marks with regards to him. Matthias Norman, Josh Sargent, they're all back in contention. Todd Caldwell missing due to personal reasons. I think there's family issues there. And of course, Sam Byram is a long-term absentee. He hasn't featured since Norwich were last in the Premier League. It's Southampton down at St Mary's. Stuart Armstrong still not training with the group, so won't be entertained. Will Smallbone is, but after a long-term ACL rupture, won't be considered just yet. Theo Walcott has returned to the group, isn't in terms of his conditioning and where his fitness, he isn't up to speed, but he may make that bench. For Tottenham, Lucas Moura is back in contention, but Nuno confirms that Stephen Burgoyne and Ryan Sessegnon will not be ready for the North London derby. Watford, my boys heading down to Vicarage Road. I expect Ben Foster to start in goal. Daniel Bachmann is taking part in aspects of training, modified sessions because of a knee problem. Of course, he missed out last weekend and midweek. Kiko Firmino, fine. He made his return last weekend and was rested midweek. And also, we could see the return of João Pedro, the young Brazilian teenager who's been sidelined since mid-July with a knee injury. He's back and has been training normally. West Ham, Mikel Antonio, absolutely fine, rested midweek following his ban. That was just a decision around with one eye on this Leeds game, so he is 100% fine. The only injury concern is Ryan Fredericks, who pulled up with a groin problem. And finally, last but certainly not least, Wolves. Bit of an improved performance midweek, but that draw and subsequent penalty shootout loss came didn't go through smoothly. Yerson Mosquera was forced off for the hamstring problem. I think that was his first start for the club. It could be between 1 and 2 months before he returns. So that suggests it's a grade 2, possibly borderline grade 3 strain there. So that's not a nice injury for the young centre back. And also Wolves lost Ait Nouri to a clash of the heads. I think it was with Tanganga. That's confirmed as concussion, although we know Marcal will probably start on the left-hand side anyway. Long-term absentees, Otto and Neto and Hugo Buena remain out. I am at 12 minutes again. I've failed with Ben 10. Anyway, that is hopefully covered everything ahead of game week 6 FPL. Now, we have a live Q&A session scheduled for Saturday morning at 10 p.m. Register your interest. You will be notified as soon as we go live, and I look forward to seeing you there. Good luck, everyone. And yeah, see you in the morning.